Welcome to Horsepower Happenings with Zach Heiser.
Well, that's where the sport's going, and if you want to be a part of it, you better keep up.
Logan Beckwith.
The veterans could talk to the younger guys and tell them they really need to look at this.
And Kevin Reeve.
Stage racing is dumb, sorry. Stage racing just means, we're fast one stage.
Attention drivers, to the staging lane.
Welcome to the first ever Horsepower Happenings show. I'm Zach Heiser alongside Logan Beckwith, Kevin Reeve. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. John Berglund's along as well. He's going to be our main topic today. John, thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate being here and what you guys have planned for the state of Michigan.
John, we're bringing you on, and we're starting the whole series off. John Berglund, you are the advertising manager for Lane Automotive, and you guys have a very, very big event coming up this weekend, and it's something that's very important to race car drivers all across the state and all across the country. Tell us a little bit about that safety summit that's coming up for Lane Automotive.
I guess we'll start out how this all came about. It is this Saturday, March 10th, at our facility at 8300 Lane Drive in Waterville, which is at exit 41 off 94. Very easy to find. But basically, our Circle Track product manager, Ryan Disterheft, had an idea to promote safety amongst all types of racing we deal with and bring in some manufacturers to not just discuss product, but talk about educating the racers with proper techniques for seat installation, belt installation, and related topics like that. Not so much to sell stuff, but just to educate the public, and we thought that was something that was needed, so a few of us got together and put this all together.
When you look at safety, John, over the past few years, I know that one of the movers and shakers has been UMP, and they've been implementing some very strict safety rules, and there's really nobody on the fence. Either they love the fact that UMP is enforcing these safety rules, such as the plate in the door, and now they're requiring the modifieds to have containment seats and a neck restraint. And then I know one of the big things with the late model world was the suppression system being built into the car. How have you guys been able to try and help the local driver get safer, because it's so important?
Well, I do think UMP definitely started the ball rolling on this, and I think it was sorely needed. We had already kept a lot of these products in stock for the racer, but I do think that both us and UMP worked hard to educate the racer as on the proper benefits, what they could have here. I know it all started kicking off when the guy was fatally injured at Eldora on this with the lack of the full containment seat and this and that. But I think it was definitely great timing for them to step up and get this promoted.
Kevin, I want to ask you, you and I have talked a lot about the expenses of running a late model. And, Logan, I'll be able to talk to you about running a UMP modified too. But when UMP steps in and says, okay, you don't get the choice anymore, you have to run these safety things, are you glad that UMP is forcing that on you, or would you rather be able to save money somewhere? And is safety the place to save money?
Well, I think realistically it needed to be done. And I think that now UMP stepped up, so you guys got to do it. And either you want to play or you don't. And if you want to race, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
And, honestly, after running the containment seats as long as I have, I love them. I won't go away from them. I mean, I've been really strict, not really too concerned about the neck restraint, which Logan's yelled at me numerous times about, but I will get one this year. And the fire suppression system, all these mandates, they're really trying to make us safe. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, yes, it costs money. But you're going to spend $23,000 on an engine. What's $5,000 more to put the proper safety stuff in your car to make sure you're safe?
And late models are expensive. It's one of the top tiers of the dirt track racing world. Logan, you are usually running a UMP modified throughout the summer. A lot of people consider that one of the cheaper ways of racing. But in all realistic honesty, you're spending just about the same amount of money, so you have to be just as safe if you're going just as fast.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think Kevin can answer this too. That he's tried them both, and cost-wise, you're not really saving a lot with the modified. You've got just the same engines, and maybe you're saving a little bit on tires, but the safety still needs to be there.
John, to go back to the Safety Summit, if guys are in that boat where if they're going to race in the state of Michigan, it's probably going to be under UMP rules, or if they're going to race in the tri-state area, it's probably going to be under UMP rules. If they've got some reservations, if they are concerned about, buying that containment seat, buying that suppression system, the neck restraint, Safety Summit, perfect time to ask the questions and learn about what they're getting into.
You're totally correct on that one, Zach. We have a great combination of manufacturers to come in, including PXG Racewear. They specialize in the underwear part of the whole equation here. Superior Fuel Cells, a new line for us. They're going to discuss proper mounting of the fuel cells and their products. Kersey Seats, of course, goes without saying. They're going to be, educating people about seats. Pyrotech, helmets, various safety products. Steve Sinclair, who works with K&K Insurance and the Interstate Racing Association Sprint Cars. He is a very interesting proponent of safety, both at the track and personally. I've heard him speak at MSPA meetings, and he is fantastic. Sparkle Suits and all their products, and Stilo Helmets are the manufacturers we have coming in. And then probably the biggest part of this is going to be the appearance of Harley White, who is a female racer out of the Oklahoma area who actually raced micro sprints. In her first micro sprint race in 2008, she was badly burned. It was
I remember that. That was big news.
Tragedy. She ended up rolling over and couldn't get out of the fire, but was rescued by another racer. She went to the Shriners Hospital and recovered, and then ended up returning to micro sprint racing in 2009. She ended up progressing to sprint car racing, ran some ASCS, she ran some 410 stuff, and she's become a great proponent of racing safety and spread their message throughout the industry. So we're really happy to have her on board to come and provide inspiration to everybody.
And anybody who's been in a serious racing accident, the three of us here in the studio, I think of Sean McFeeters. Mm-hmm. He flipped his sprint car down the backstretch. He didn't have a neck restraint. He didn't have a containment seat. And he got out of sprint car racing, and when he got his street stock and even the modified, when he was in modified, he would not touch a racetrack without a neck restraint and without a containment seat, because unless you've been through it, you don't know how important that stuff is. I'm sure that both of you can attest to that. I mean, I've been treated for, just running street stocks and front wheel drives. I've been treated for whiplash, So, Logan, you've got stories too, I'm sure.
Probably the worst I've ever been hurt was when I first started racing. I was young. I was bulletproof. Mm-hmm. Couldn't afford the proper safety gear. I went down to Bryan, Ohio dirt track down there with like an enduro type car. I had a stock type seat. I had stock seat belts. Mm-hmm. And I can remember going into turn 3, and it was real dusty down there. And I thought, boy, I think I'm getting I was running the high side. I think I'm getting close to the wall. Well, I hit the wall. And when I hit so hard, it knocked the motor completely out of the car, out of the motor mounts. And I can remember looking up and seeing the ceiling of the car. What had happened is that stock seat broke. I fell back, and I was going down the straightaway, and the car was still going, and I had to pull myself up with the steering wheel with the car still going.
Wow.
And as I was pulling off the track, I can still remember to this day, there was like an opening in the cement wall, and I was seeing double, and I couldn't figure out which hole to go out. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, man. And I had great big welts where the seat belt cut into me. From that point on, I decided it's full safety equipment or I'm not racing.
Quite honestly, you're lucky to be alive. Yeah. I mean, an accident like that knocked you senseless. You're lucky to be here.
It definitely woke me up. I'll tell you that.
Kevin?
Oh, yeah. I've only had a few incidents since a street stock actually hit the wall, hit it broadside out of turn 4. And my head ended up hitting the dashboard or the cockpit next to me.
Wow!
And I never did have nothing on the right side of me, and my neck was sore for a while. And I got the thing for the side, and I started wearing the nut collar and stuff, and all that. And it kind of wakes you up. And then once the containment seats started coming out, I'm like, eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah,
they're going to mandate it.
Yep.
And I think it's great that John's doing this. I think you guys are great that Lane's doing this for everybody because you're not trying to sell stuff. You're just trying to give people knowledge.
Trying to get people educated.
And that's the aggressing about it, is that there's so many people on the fence right now. It's just ridiculous that I hear they don't want to do it. And it's just like, dude, go talk to these guys. Mm-hmm. Go talk to Harley White. Go see what she's got to say.
Go talk to somebody
that's been through it.
Who has been through it. And John, the stories are going to be plentiful this weekend, because not only are you going to have Harley White there and you're going to have some drivers there checking out equipment, but when you're in an accident at a racetrack, the first people that come to you are track safety. And at the Safety Summit, you're going to have some track safety there as well.
Correct. The Kalamazoo Track Services is going to have their rollover simulator there, and you actually get seated up in the car, strapped in the car, and then they roll the car over upside down, and basically you have to get out of the car. You have to get out of your straps, and you have to get out of the car, and they're going to give some tips on how to do that. And that's probably something drivers in late models and modified need to be more cognizant of too, is how difficult is it to get out of your car? Not necessarily when you roll over, but you hit the wall like these guys are talking about, or you go backwards into the wall. Some of the current cars are pretty difficult to get out of. So, this might aid you in learning new techniques to help yourself with that.
I'm young, but I've been racing. We talked, for 13 years I've been in the sport, and I've never been on my lid. I've never had to face the fear of undoing my belts, falling on my gourd, and then trying to remember how to get out of the car, but you're upside down. That's something I've never had to deal with.
2 years ago, I was racing Charlie Heath's modified, and I got upside down. It was a light roll, but I was really worried that the fuel cell was leaking. And like John is saying, until you experience it, you do not know how hard it is to get out of a car. I could not figure out how to get out of the car. I wasn't scared about the rollover. I was scared about a fire starting, and I couldn't get out.
Right.
Until the safety crew turned me over where I was able to get out. But it pushed the roof down just enough. I couldn't get out of that thing.
And a lot of us say, if I roll over and I'm okay, I'm just going to tell them to flip the car over. But if the thing ignites, you don't have a choice. You've got to get out now. Mm-hmm. And John, what a thing for Kalamazoo to bring that, because how many? The 2 out of 3 of us here have never been on our lids, and so it's great that Kalamazoo is going to bring that up there. They're kind of they're almost becoming the standard for track safety, John, in our state. Kalamazoo's top of the line.
Oh, without a doubt, and I'm going to repeat this too. They actually brought this to MSPA, and some of the members and associate members that got to get in there and try it and realize just how difficult it was to get out of here. And I think it brought it to a lot of people's attention. And then in turn, these guys booked these guys in at their track. So I think it's a great idea what Gary and Jake Steele are doing here. And hats off to those guys.
You also are inviting people to come in and learn from these guys too. These guys want to share their secret. They're as we said, they're top of the line. They know how to handle a car hitting the wall, bursting into flames, getting that driver out, getting the fire extinguished. There are some tracks that are working with bare minimum, safety employees. There can be lessons learned at this summit this weekend.
Oh, correct. And that's why, we're inviting everybody, be it a racer, a track worker, track owners. Everybody's invited. And we want everybody to come out and enjoy the day. Actually, we've got some Saturday-only specials. We're going to take a trade-in on outdated belts, give you $20 off a new set of belts. And I think it's a great deal, especially for dirt racers. Once you get the dirt and the sand in your belt, they tend to get a braid and wear out, and I think it's a great opportunity for people to come in and do their belts, as well as take advantage of some other specials we got going on in the store. And, John, the store is going to be open. Let's face it, tax season is, race car stimulus package season. This is the perfect time for somebody to buy helmet, suit, gloves, as you said, the belts, even seats, and people are going to be there. They're going to walk you through it, and they're going to make sure that you're all set and squared away to be safe for the 2018 season. Well, exactly, and after the seminars, the manufacturer gets done with their seminar, they're going to be provided a space to answer questions. So you're going to have twice the opportunity to get stuff figured out and ask questions, and that's what we want. We want interaction, and we want you to be able to get feedback. that's why we're doing this. It's not so much of a sale; it's an informational thing, and I could see us doing a lot more of this in the future.
Okay, John, tell us the times and where and prices to get tickets and all that one more time.
Well, it is from 9 to 2 this Saturday, March 10th. It is at our showroom at 8300 Lane Drive in Waterville, which is at exit 41 off of I-94. Super easy to find. There is no charge. You really don't have to sign up. Some of the seminars might be limited, so if you are coming out, you might want to sign up on our website or our Facebook, but not necessary. We just want everybody to come on out, enjoy the day, and learn something.
Okay, John, sounds good. Thanks so much for calling in and being our first guest on Horsepower Happenings. John, we look forward to working with you again, and thanks so much again for being on the show.
No problem. Best of luck to you guys, and hope to see you Saturday. Thanks.
All right, thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, guys, to continue the conversation, we all know drivers who, as Kevin alluded to, every penny they have goes into the drivetrain or the chassis. Nothing goes into safety. How do you split that? How do you say, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 on getting this block redone. I've also got $1,500 worth of safety I could upgrade. How do you balance that?
I think you can do it a little bit how I kind of approach Kevin, because Kevin he wasn't wearing a Hans device. And so the older guys need to go to these younger guys and point out, it really, really helps, because I've hit the wall both ways. I've hit the wall without one, and for a week, I couldn't hardly move my neck. And then I've hit it with one harder than the previous time, and I wasn't even sore, not even the least little bit. Mm-hmm. So I think the older drivers the veterans could talk to the younger guys and tell them they really need to look at this real hard.
Kevin?
It is a fine line. I mean, and I'm looking to get the neck restraint this year, and it's been hard. And I've ran a Hans.
Logan's laughing at you.
Yeah, I know he is. He's laughing.
He's saying finally
after 10 years, I don't want to rush into it or anything.
Yeah.
But I've ran. I think the biggest thing for myself is comfortability.
Sure.
When you put something out, in your racing, you don't want to deal with any more uncomfortness as much as you need to. And I ran Hans device. It's a good product, but I just wasn't comfortable for me, and I didn't like it, and took it out and didn't wear it anymore. But I am going to get a Simpson hybrid is my plan, and we'll be getting adapted to it, and we'll get comfortable. But I think, honestly, when you look at what it costs to run these cars now compared to safety stuff, I think you just got to figure out what's most important. I mean, if your belts are getting outdated, like John said, after a couple of years, replace them.
Yeah.
So it's $150.
And they're stamped anyhow.
Yeah.
I mean, they are tested to the max, and that's where they're not safe anymore. And honestly, a lot of guys don't replace them soon enough. If you take a hard hit, you've stretched the material. Mm-hmm. It's not as safe as it once was.
Yeah, and that the seat that I bought and it goes along with the belts. I bought a sprint car seat, put it in there. It's a 10-degree layback seat. Made it do some different adjustability, but also bought sprint car seat belts for it. And they're the ratchet style. And I swear, you don't want to go the other style.
Yeah.
You don't loosen up with ratchets, and you're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And you're very comfortable in those cars now, and it's great.
Is it a sanctioning body's job to make sure that its drivers are safe, or is it the driver's job to make sure they are safe? Is UMP stepping over the line by enforcing these rules?
I don't think UMP is. I think UMP just saw a knack for something that needed to be done. And unfortunately, race car drivers are going to worry about the race car first and how to get the motor going and get fuel and tires. And I think UMP just said, you know what, guys, enough's enough. Mm-hmm. We're getting people hurt and people are passing away. We're done. Mm-hmm. We're going to do these following steps, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, sure. And there's been people complaining about it on Facebook and stuff, and I get to laughing because the problems they're complaining about is just dumb. Just dumb.
Sure.
And I think if they make the rules, the racers find a way to purchase
Mm-hmm.
it. They'll find a way. Right. Because they want to race.
Yeah, and plus drivers, we don't want to change nothing. We're creatures of habit. We don't want to, by golly, we're not going to buy this because we don't want to,
Well, and you look at, too, there is a track in our state that it says right in the rules that a 5-point harness and a roll cage are highly suggested and encouraged, but not enforced. And while there have been no fatalities at that racetrack due to the lack of safety, if you ask me, they're asking for it. I mean, they're asking for something bad to happen.
Yes, they are.
Because if you don't tell us that we have to stay within a parameter as race car drivers, we're going to go back to spending every dollar somewhere else.
Yep, exactly. And for not to mandate a roll cage or a 5-point harness, that's just,
You're living in the 40s. You're living in the 30s. I mean, you're...
As an owner or promoter, I would find it hard to live with myself if somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then, it's just insane.
I don't know, I wouldn't feel comfortable with it either. Knowing that you have, 30 drivers going around that track that lives are in danger. I mean, they are. It doesn't matter how small the track is. You're getting speed with these race cars, and it's one wrong hit, and somebody's going to the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I think to hit on that point, that it is the track and sanctioning body's job to make sure that its drivers are safe, because we've all said it. And anybody that gets offended by this has obviously not been in the sport long enough. Race car drivers are stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we are.
We are. We
drive around in circles for fun.
Exactly.
How more you want to get out of it?
We're going to spend the money first on the go fast parts.
Yeah, exactly.
And you look at NASCAR. How far have they come in 17 years since Dale Earnhardt passed away?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was an everyday hit. Thinking back to it, somebody got turned into the wall. You thought nothing of it. But, there was the thoughts that he loosened his belts. He had the open face helmet. Now you can't get away with any of that. They're watching you with the cameras to make sure that... I've been watching NASCAR lately. Under cautions, they're loosening their belts, and I bet that's going to change. Because they're still cruising around at 55 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. They're reaching up and retightening them before green. And NASCAR's setting a safety precedent that a lot of people are following. UMPs now, as we've said, they're enforcing the seat, they're enforcing the belts, they're enforcing suppression. It doesn't take much to make that happen.
Agreed.
Let's talk about NASCAR. They will be coming to Michigan June and August, so that falls under the Motorsports Broadcasting of Michigan umbrella. 2 weeks ago, they were in Atlanta, had the lowest car count since 1996. They started 36 cars. And the broadcast team with Fox had an interesting conversation about this. Quantity over quality. What's your take?
I think I'd like quality. I mean, I would hate to see a bunch of starting parks show up.
Yeah, I agree with Logan on that one. I think if you get 35 cars, and they're all good cars, and they can all win, that's going to be a good show. I really do.
And that's what they said, too. And that race, I didn't see anybody starting park. I think the slowest car out there was Jeffrey Earnhardt in a one-charter team. He ran all the laps. I mean, he was several laps down, but he ran all the laps. And I think that if you allow starting parks, you're stealing money from the fans, who come to see, if they pay money knowing that 43 cars are starting, but only 26 of them are going to run the entire race. What do you have? That's like on the local level saying that you're going to start 50 cars for $10,000 to win. Well, that's going to be a hell of a race, but if you're down to only 30, well then I could have went to the local track for that.
Yeah, agreed.
What else is going on, guys? What have we been seeing? What have we been hearing? What do we know? Anything?
What do we know? Really haven't been keeping much up on NASCAR, to be honest with
you. I know.
I'm really not a NASCAR fan, and I used to be a big time fan, in all honesty. I used to watch all the time. But as things progress, as you get older, and things have changed so much, it's just not like, I don't know, I just don't agree with what they do now, and it's just...
What don't you like?
Well, I don't like it. It's just, it's kind of boring to me.
Okay, why? Do you know why? Can you say why?
Why?
Can you put it into words?
Yeah, because you watch this race, and it starts at noon or 1 o'clock, whatever time. You can take a nap for 3 hours, and you get up, and it's still 20 laps over. It's like, this is ridiculous.
Well, now, have you watched it since they introduced stage racing?
Stage racing is dumb. Sorry.
Don't like it?
Dumb. Because stage racing just means, we're fast one stage. So this whole points race now used to be consistency. Consistency wins races. Consistency wins championships. Well, now, to me... Well, if I don't do good in the first 10 races, it don't matter. But if I win a race, I'm already in.
Winning, you're in.
Dumb. I don't agree with it. I never have.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was in the playoffs last year in 2017. He won 2 restrictor plate races, which NASCAR openly has said is a crapshoot because anybody can win at a restrictor plate race. There's 1 restrictor plate race in the playoffs, and he didn't win it, and he didn't go on. Quality over quantity. You win and you're in. If you're 35th in points or better, you get to compete for a championship. Now there are 23 other drivers who aren't getting a chance that could be better quality than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was last year seeing a statistic about Martin Truex. He was the first person to introduce this whole playoff stuff that actually got the most points, and if they went to the old system, he would have won it.
Yeah, he'd have won under the old system, too.
Won under the old system. I'm like, that's cool, because you know what? He means he's consistent every single weekend. He's racing hard, and if there are issues, he figures them out, and he continues.
And he had the most stage wins. I mean, he had the most stage wins in 2017, so the old system, you led the most laps, you got bonus points. They're working their way back to the old system, if you ask me.
I think they ought to just go back to it and be done with it. I mean, change is good. I mean, I agree with change, but there's certain things you don't change, and I think that just really this isn't baseball. It's not football.
Right.
This isn't basketball. This is racing. Let's go back to racing.
Okay, but NASCAR is the top tier as far as national auto racing. Dirt track, you've got the World of Outlaws, the Lucas Oil Series.
Mm-hmm.
You look at these smaller touring series, which the example I'm going to use is not small by any means, but the CRA Jegs Outlaw Late Model Series, it's my understanding that their main points run is already a playoff style. They have already adapted a playoff style of points racing. It's trickling down, guys. NASCAR sets the precedent. I don't think it'll get to the dirt track level. If it does, it's going to take a lot longer, which I think we talked about a couple weeks ago. But I think the pavement local tracks are going to pick up on it.
And they may do that. And honestly, if CRA does it and is successful, then maybe they'll. But, man, I don't know. I just don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. I never have. I think it's just...
I want to get your take, because you race those style of cars, those Outlaw Late Models. And, Logan, with you being able to race dirt and pavement, or with you choosing to, I don't know if Kevin has the ability or not, but I want to get your take on that.
He's played on it before.
He's played on it, yeah. Just a good way to heat cycle the tires for Kevin.
Yeah, pretty much.
NASCAR sets the precedent for the pavement world. Do you see it working its way to the local track?
Boy, I don't know. I think it would add a lot of cost to it, because you've got to try to do so well in each stage and race so hard, and I really think it would put a lot more cost into it, and guys are already having a hard time maintaining their cars for the total season anyway.
Heat races pay points in the local race world, and then if you don't make the feature, you run the B main, the car after the last transfer spot gets some amount of points. And then the A main, the feature main event, pays the most amount of points and the most amount of money. Joe Smo, running the NASCAR series, wins 2 out of 3 stages, and then Kevin Harvick goes on to win the 3rd stage, the longest stage, the main event, the most points, the most money. How's it different? How's that different? Other than the fan sits in the beating sun all day instead of showing up at 4 o'clock and sitting in the fading sun and the dark all day. How's it different?
I'll let Logan take that one.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Yeah, it could happen.
Everybody, a couple of years ago it came out that the World of Outlaw Late Models and Sprint Cars had a bigger fan base than NASCAR. And since then, NASCAR's been trying to keep up. To me, they introduced heat races with a 115 lap feature at the end of it.
Which they did. I give them that. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, with the World of Outlaws and everything like that, you don't have that homeboy, local boy feel. You don't.
Right.
You don't have that. I mean, you look at the
Brad Keselowski can't show up to Michigan and have a home track advantage because he's been racing there all season.
Yeah, exactly. He lives in the state. That's about it for MIS, Or like you see, they ran out in Gaffney, South Carolina this year at Cherokee for the race over the weekend. Chris Madden wins, but he's got family in that area, and there's photos taken of him and his family and all the screw people. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee after the race was over, I'm sure all them kids from the grandstands walked down there and met with him and talked to him and did all this stuff. And it's just like, you can't do that in NASCAR. I've been in NASCAR. I've went to the things. You're in a fenced area. You can't talk to nobody. You know, if you're part of the elite group, you get a pass.
Yep.
And you might be able to talk to them, but more than likely not.
The only way you're talking to a NASCAR driver is if you've paid money or you went through the process to get a pass.
Yeah, and I ain't paying money to talk to a NASCAR guy. That's just not...
They're not as personable. Now, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here. They're not as personable as they used to be when they were down-home farm boys racing these cars. But I think that they're seeing that that's an error in their ways. I think that they are changing. Because I look at Kenny Wallace. He's not a NASCAR driver anymore, but if you follow him on Twitter and on Facebook, you almost know what he's doing every minute of the day. Because he is on Twitter all the time. He's on Facebook all the time with videos. These guys need to let fans back into their world so that we understand them better and have a reason to follow along.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Kenny, I mean, he's a great person to actually look at this, because if you look at the Twitter stuff, I don't know, I'm a big Twitter guy, but if you look at his Twitter posts, when I do look at him, he's commenting on stuff that people write, and that fans are writing. And it's like he knows how to interact, and guarantee if they walk up to him, he's going to talk to him at a track, and remember that conversation, possibly.
He came to Butler, it was 2 years ago, actually, and it was the weekend that I got married, so I wasn't there. But when I come back, all anybody was talking about was how personable he was. I mean, he ran second to Mike Langdon and congratulated him, and he talked to everybody in the pits. He came up and did an interview with whoever was filling in for me and talked to the fans, and we don't see that around here anymore.
You don't?
We don't see the big shots just showing up to race somewhere and talking to the fans unless somebody puts out the money and it turns into an autograph session.
Yep.
Well, it used to happen all the time, too. I can remember when Bill Elliott showed up at Butler, and he ran like an Enduro-style car. And as a matter of fact, his boss, Harry Melling, was driving another car. And then they also had a bunch of reporters and TV personnel racing with them. And I can remember that Harry started out in front, and Bill was like third, and he got into second. And anybody that came up and challenged, actually, Bill Elliott would block to let his boss win.
Given the chance, if you had two rides handed to you, one's a NASCAR ride, one is the World of Outlaws for whatever, which one are you taking?
Oh, that's hands down going dirt.
Going dirt.
Yep.
Why? I know for you it's easy because you don't race a whole lot of pavement.
Well, for me, I love dirt. Dirt, it just changes so much, and it's constantly changing. And when you're on the racetrack, it's on you. You can't call back and say, "Hey, I need a wedge adjustment."
Right.
You can, but you're going to go with the tail, and you're not going to use the front.
You're going to go in the pits and possibly lose a lap.
Yeah. So for me, as being a dirt guy, it's like, you know what? If the car's not right, well, I got to figure something else out. Run a different line. Run the wall. Run against in the inside. Do something different.
You've got to make the adjustment on the fly.
Because that's what drivers do.
Right. Logan?
Actually,
who, again, for people who don't know Logan, dirt, UMP modified, and you own a template body pavement outlaw.
Correct, and driven the outlaw late models, and so I would definitely pick the dirt car also.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more fun. The driver's more in charge of what happens during the race. You can pick a different line. You can try to find, you can take it up to the top. You can take it to the bottom. With asphalt, it tends to be more setup. A driver can only do so much on asphalt, where on dirt, the driver can do a little bit more.
What I've noticed is when you're racing on pavement, you've got to either A, wait, or B, force somebody into a mistake. Would that be accurate? Would that be fair? There are a couple of tracks around here where
it depends on the track.
If you can get the car set up to run the outside line at Spartan, you're probably going to make some moves.
That's correct.
But 9 times out of 10, you show up to Spartan and you run in the line and either move somebody or wait for their tires to fall off and they get loose and then you go around them. That's what I've seen. Modifieds, ABC stocks, even the Bandoleros. Once they get out of the main group of starting, you're waiting for somebody to make a mistake.
Exactly. You almost do. You have to wait for them to make a mistake, and you've got to be good enough and your car's got to be handling good enough where you could take advantage of that.
Now, we're not trying to bash pavement racing.
Correct.
We don't want to bash any sort of racing here. Why is that intriguing for a fan? It's putting the driver on the edge of their seat, if you ask me.
Yes. I think as a driver, it's actually harder to play follow the leader in asphalt.
Get really impatient.
Yes, than to almost pass on dirt. It's a lot harder. It takes a lot of patience. You have to capitalize on any little mistake, and I think a lot of fans realize this, and that's what they like. And then too, you'll get guys that are good enough to go to the outside and really stick their neck out and try it out there and get it to work.
Now, driver mistakes are important in dirt too, because it's well documented that Butler has some issues with holes. I mean, there's one hole there that's 63 years old, and we all know which turn it's in. And if somebody is missing that hole every lap, everybody's got to either run the bottom of the hole or the top of the hole. And if you miss and you make a mistake, boom, somebody's going around you right now. Same idea, isn't it?
Yeah, same thing. Same principle. I think the biggest thing with the dirt stuff compared to asphalt, and I mean, I really haven't run much asphalt compared to Logan, but the dirt stuff is like, it's just, if you even have to hit the hole wrong, if you can get the car collected up quick enough, usually you can still hang on to your spot. Or I think I've seen on asphalt, you've seen guys wiggle and they're done. I've seen somebody like Charlie Ryan was good for it. You'd see him follow somebody and they wiggle, he'd gone. And just amazing how he could just stick his car that's 18 foot long and the guy wiggles a little bit and he's there. It just amazed me all the time.
Well, and that's forward bite. I mean, if you can get the setup thing, if you can get all that power to those rear slicks, and somebody loses traction for a second, you've got to be able to drop the hammer and get by them.
Capitalize, yep.
Right. And another thing on asphalt is the longer races, like the 100-lap races, you almost have to go in with a different mentality to save the tires until the end. I've watched Stevie Dorr almost go a lap down and come back to win that race.
Sure.
But he had the patience to just sit there and not burn up his tires until towards the end of the race.
How does the driving style change between running pavement and asphalt?
Way smoother on asphalt. You got to be so smooth on the gas. And
what do you mean by that? I mean, smooth how?
Smooth as in very little wheel movement. You don't want to jerk it in. You want to be smooth going in. Let off. Use your brakes. Let the car roll the center. Try to get down to the bottom of the apex. And then as you're coming off, you want to pretend like there's an egg under your foot and slowly push into it so that you're not abusing them rear tires. Because as soon as you overheat them, you're going to start losing spots fast.
Whereas on dirt, you just kind of throw the car around and
like
and do
Corey
what you need
Bevard can have like an on and off switch. That's all. He does not need a throttle. He just needs a light switch there where he turns it on and turns it back off.
I'm going to tag him in this and make sure that he listens to this, because that's funny, because we'll have him on the program next week, actually, a little promo there. His car owner and brother, Allie, picks on him all the time. Gosh, I wish you'd save those tires, because it seems like he's full throttle almost all the time. And you can drive a lot harder. You can have a lot more aggressive driving style on dirt.
That's exactly right.
Agreed, yeah.
And I make fun of him, but he's a very good driver.
You don't get a nickname like the Silver Fox and have a bunch of track championships if you're not good. So that's why we pick on him. Aggressive driving style. What do you think? I mean, you've done a little bit of pavement racing. And how was it hard for you to keep a car under control on pavement?
Oh my God, it's so boring.
Yeah,
honestly. I mean, because I did the one night I went to somebody got talked to go to Springport with a modified, dirt modified. Went out there and. I was horrible. I told Logan, I don't know what I'm doing, so give me some pointers here. And he helped me out, and I figured some stuff out. And the only thing I realized, compared to dirt and asphalt, was I was waiting on the car.
Okay.
I had to wait.
Yeah.
And I'm like in my mind going, what are you doing? Like, it was hard for me to wait and go around the apex to the corner, get the car more straight, and then stand on it. I mean, you use the dirt, you throw it in there sideways, you stand on the throttle and drive it out.
And you were helping me kind of analyze when I was driving at Spartan. I would do the big diamond. I would come out of the corner, go up to the wall, and then cut down into the corner, and then come back. And you said you're probably irritating a lot of guys by doing that.
Oh, yes. I guarantee you were making a lot of people mad, and they were probably starting to push on you pretty hard and starting to hit you here and there.
Is that a pavement thing? Or is that a track thing?
That's pretty much a pavement thing. They usually want you to pick one line or another and usually pretty much stay in that line.
Now, this may go one way or another with you, but Frank Lett taught me that. Frank Lett told me diamond everything. You'll keep more speed up. I started racing at Montville, flat banks. It's not like you're going to run the high side and keep the momentum up. And he taught me that. Come easy right up to the wall, then cut down to the corner, get as low as you can, come easy up to the wall, come back easy to the corner. That's just always the way I've raced. I didn't know any different. I didn't know that there was a standard.
And honestly, a good driver would probably follow you 1 or 2 laps, and then as you went into the corner, they would start up high and then just cross under you and pass you. But somebody that wouldn't know how to do that move would probably just take you right out.
All right, guys, tell me what where you're at on your race cars, and let's get a little bit about you guys here to end our show. Kevin, we'll start with you. I know you've been doing a lot of stuff this off season.
Yeah, doing a lot of stuff. Got the motor pulled out. Took it down to Griff's last Tuesday, actually. Took it down to Gary and Caleb, and going to get that serviced. Actually going to Lane Automotive tomorrow to get some parts, doing the update on the fuel cell, and doing a few little things there, getting little parts to keep going, and that's about where we're at.
Logan, what do you got going?
Oh, the asphalt car is pretty much ready to go, except for I've got an issue with the engine. Jim Rupert puts my engines together, and he needs to take a look at it. We're having problems with as long as you're full throttle, it runs perfectly, but if you start letting off, it wants to start smoking, and we haven't figured it out. So he's going to check into that.
Modified?
That's the asphalt car.
You got a modified ride this year?
The modified is pretty much done. I would like to take it back down to Todd Sherman, have him go through it and set it up for us. And it's a brand new chassis, and it needs to be checked over, and it's pretty much ready to go other than that.
All right, guys. I appreciate you guys coming down. John Berglund was our guest earlier. Next week, we'll have Bevard Motorsports in the house with Allie and Corey. We'll continue the argument that you've started today about Corey's driving.
Oh, this will be a good time.
So, again, be sure to tune in next week afternoon, 12 noon, right here on SoundCloud, and we'll also share it to our Facebook and YouTube pages. So we'll talk to you again next week.
Horsepower Happenings with Zach Heiser, Logan Beckwith, and Kevin Reeve. Tune in next Tuesday to keep up on what's happening.